Council and your state forester.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM, 915-544-5876, or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Whichever works best is the way that you're able to see the show or interact to it with your level of satisfaction in mind. That's the best place for you to be as we continue our dual missions to talk about the things going on and affecting us here in the borderland, as we already have some people chiming in over there, but also have the discussion. Well, A, we think we deserve it, and B, to have it, because no one else is going to have that talk about the things that go on, affect us here, and even may have some cross-state challenges coming into it. So right after we got off air yesterday, right after we were talking about some of those laws, some of the implications from them, and even some of the things that have been voted on previously here in El Paso, well, there was an addendum being added. So it's okay. Free for all Friday. Let's just make that perfectly clear. We're still doing it, but I have to bring up this one, like literally right before we got off air yesterday, came out that El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser has now vetoed that end of the youth curfew for El Paso. Now, this was anticipation of not that much vaunted Death Star law, but a different one, more specifically noted by our news partners at KFOX 14, House Bill 1819, that prohibits cities from enforcing an ordinance that imposes a curfew to regulate the movements or actions of anyone younger than 18 years old, except for purposes of emergency management. Now, if you're facing a flood of 14-year-olds ravaging your parks, that's one thing, I suppose, and that's entirely tongue-in-cheek, but it's, it was pretty clearly laid out. So there was the decision made by City Council to say, okay, well, we'll give deference to this after that law has been in place since, I believe, at least 19 or local ordinance, and in deference to the new law, as has been part of, I guess you could call, a whole state package about state control over local issues in general. So the fact that this is now, well, what Leeser told our news partners at KFOX 14, the mayor saying that the state imposed this on us and we don't have to follow state law, quote unquote. So we'll see how that one works out. But saying that basically he got both consulted by local law enforcement, concerned citizens in the area, and community leaders, saying that they support keeping the curfew around. So might be setting up a fight with that. Also, in deference to something that we were just recently talking about, and what has been being referenced by that news conference with District Attorney for El Paso, Bill Hicks, saying that there was concerned about certain violent incidences, particularly around certain areas of town, the Cincinnati Street area and entertainment district, certainly a focus in recent days, basically since last weekend. But there's now an interesting operation that's gone through, more than interesting, a pretty expansive one, again, from our news partners at KFOX 14, 112 people arrested during El Paso Police's Violent Crime Suppression Task Force operation. So it actually did go on from July 21st through August 12th, so wrapping up not too long ago. And among other things, it's noted that during the operation, a 30% drop in violent crime and non-domestic violent crime. So don't know if that's the best way to do it, but notable in a couple of ways. Also, a bunch of other things going on and around the community, as has been noted by many, including in our comments, about there being those dogs that were seen in I believe it was a Chaparral area. Yeah, Chaparral home, severely emaciated, and there being quite the call on social media to do something about it. There were arrests made, and now animal cruelty charges have been filed after those dogs were then removed from that home. But also, there are still continuing on border security and immigration issues, including, at least by my count, late last night and as of today, this morning, 2 bodies recovered. One today near Paisano and Schuster along the border wall in the water itself, and then another one in the San Elizario Canal. So police and sheriffs investigating in those cases, and at least 18 people, serious clown car sounding situation, found inside a noted small SUV in Santa Teresa. So we got a lot of stuff going on in and around the borderland. So, and also some updates on that Bridge of the Americas project with, the General Services Administration actually exploring removing commercial truck traffic from the Bridge of the Americas based on community feedback and other things coming out of that. So that's a whole lot coming up. I almost feel like it's a Monday with how much news has developed just since yesterday or since the last time we were with y'all. But we got a whole lot more coming up and a whole lot more we're going to be talking about. And yeah, it's Free for All Friday. We got phone lines already pretty well full up, to be honest with y'all. And of course, we're going to be doing that throughout both hours of the program. Just a few things that I felt the absolute need to mention here, including at least one other coming in again late yesterday. Just the article title from our news partners at KFOX: 14 Border Patrol agents under fire during migrant apprehension at Clint border. So there's still, again, immigration and border security issues will, I think, for the foreseeable future continue on. Hopefully not apace, but definitely still existing and something we're going to be talking about. But a lot of people tuning in and chiming in. Free for All Friday is that day, as Marky Mendingo very excited about, when we take on all the subjects, these or any of the others happening in and around town. Just, again, keep it clean, but we do have those phone lines open if full up at the moment. Noting that we will be taking them through both hours of the program, but just keep that number handy. Again, when one call ends, another line becomes available: 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM, with a bunch of other people chiming in as well. Mondo Moncada with the howdy, Ted Kors with the happy Friday, certainly to use as well. And John Browsleton noting that Lisa likes to challenge authority except when it's Biden. Okay, you're entitled to your opinion and his analysis of it, but we'll see what ends up happening with this case. And also Marky Mendingo noting, particularly in the curfew, that fentanyl gets sold 24 hours a day, not just after 10. Okay, interesting. I mean, fair enough point. There's certainly availability. It does seem like, though I would have to imagine that some post-daylight hours might be a more frequent time. I don't really have any data to point to, just to kind of want to maybe one of those Batman type implications. But anyway, let's just dive right into it and get to those phone lines here right now. Again, just keep that number handy: 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We do have Ben on the east side here with us right now. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Oh, Andrew, today I'm going to challenge anybody that thinks they know what really happened on January 6th to listen to Tucker Carlson's interview with former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund, who was in charge during the January 6th insurrection.
Mm-hmm. I believe you've mentioned this one before as well, right?
No, I haven't. No,
oh, you have not? Okay.
That one. But I do challenge people to listen to that interview and see whether or not they come away with the same impression that the January 6th committee came out with in their statements.
Okay.
Also, has anybody out there heard about Gonzalo Lira?
Yeah, I don't think that one came through quite that clearly. What was that one again?
Anybody out there heard about Gonzalo Lira?
Gonzalo Lira. I can't say offhand if I'm hearing it right.
Okay, this will tell you that we are fighting for who we're fighting for: Zelensky and the Ukrainian government. Gonzalo Lira is an American citizen who has been living in Ukraine for several years. At the start of the Ukrainian war in 2022, Lira spoke out against the government and now faces 13 years in prison. The U.S. State Department refuses to discuss the U.S. citizen's arrest, and a U.S. State Department spokesman refuses to say whether the U.S. is even working for Lira's release. He is a United States citizen who is sitting in a Ukrainian prison. And our State Department's not doing a dang thing about it. And one more thing. Have you heard about all the Afghanistan people that are living in Pakistan are being now repatriated to Afghanistan because the U.S. Department, State Department, is not doing anything to get them, to get these people that helped us while we were in Afghanistan to get to come to the United States. We can actually, we open our borders to everybody else, but we can't rescue these people. They are being deported back to Afghanistan, and because of what they did, they are being executed, raped, everything. But our State Department says they don't have enough ability to get those people out and over in the United States. Mm-hmm. Have you heard anything about that?
Not as much there. I mean, of course, previously knowledge about that area is that there's a lot of cross-application ties between particularly the eastern part of Afghanistan and Pakistan. That's why some of the operations, and frankly, that's where bin Laden was, among other things. So haven't heard about that one as exactly that you're talking about it in those terms there.
No, what it amounts to is that people, when Afghanistan, when we left Afghanistan, the people had to flee out of Afghanistan into Pakistan. Pakistan allowed them to do that 2 years ago. The Pakistani government now is saying, we don't want them here anymore, and they are repatriating them back into Afghanistan, where they are criminals, they are hanged, they are raped, they are killed. And our State Department is doing nothing to help these people. That was on CNN report about a week ago. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, again, just look up these things.
Yeah, certainly.
And for sure, listen to Tucker. If you think you know what went on during January 6th, I just challenge you to listen to this and see if you take away anything different.
All right. Well, fair enough. We'll appreciate the point. I think we lost you there for a second, but appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Okay. Stay well, stay safe. God bless. And let's go, Brandon.
And with that, we'll go and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls, more of comments, more of everything on the line, including a bunch more people wishing a good free for all Friday. And Jeff had taught us asking, are we following the sheriff's race? Oh, yes. There's a lot of things coming up and going on there. And at least you mentioned it at the end of the show yesterday. One interesting, it's called wardrobe choice, but yeah, there's that race does seem to be heating up in recent days. And there was a rally or some kind of, I couldn't actually find the online thing for it. And it was over by the time we were done with the show kind of thing. Couldn't go visit with ourselves, but there's a lot more coming here. But let's talk about that as we come out of this break. So again, you are tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. That phone number again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM, free for all Friday in full effect. Taking all the comments and calls we can squeeze into 2 hours on the show. So back right at it after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound at Paisano, an earlier crash is partially blocking the right lane. 15-minute delays, stop and go back to Hawkins. I-10 eastbound slow with stop and go delays from Piedras to Trowbridge. In the lower valley, there's a crash southbound Loop 375 at Pan American Drive. That's off to the right. No lanes seem to be blocked. Southbound Mesa Street is slow from Desert Boulevard down to Wyoming downtown. It's 8-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by ComparianInsurance.com.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Never heard of us? We know. But to help it stick that our local agents are insurance experts, we're going to say local agent 3 times in the next 5 seconds. Local agent, local agent, local agent.
Find us at ComparianInsurance.com.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
This planet is so incredibly beautiful that I can't get enough of it. I did 950 miles on the Pacific Crest Trail, and Good Feet was with me all the way.
Hi, this is Mike with the Good Feet Store. Are you ready for summer adventures? Don't let your feet get in the way. Learn how the Good Feet Store can help.
Your passion's important, but if your body aches and if your heel feels like you've got a nail stuck in it and won't come out, trust me, it's going to wear you down. The Good Feet Store knew what they were talking about and took the time to really dial in what I needed. I hiked 84 miles in the Himalaya and to do it pain-free. You think I'm not grateful for Good Feet?
You deserve comfort in your life, too. Sandal season is here, and Good Feet fits into all your summer shoes, even flip-flops. Visit the Good Feet store today for your free fitting and test walk.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Schedule your appointment today at goodfeet.com.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and your options for cancellation. Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, has put together a free information guide that reveals the secrets the timeshare industry doesn't want you to know, including the 5 ways to get rid of your timeshare. Call now and get this timeshare cancellation guide absolutely free.
Call 800-334-2266. That's 800-334-2266. 800-334-2266.
You know, when you really think about it, we want to oppose the centralization of power. We want to create obstacles to tyranny.
There he goes again, being prudent.
The Constitution isn't about procedural niceties.
Stating facts.
It's not a great philosophical document like the Declaration.
And using common sense.
It's a governing document.
If he keeps this up, he'll be Employee of the Month. Sean Hannity, afternoons at 1. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in. However you may be doing so, a lot of ways to interact with the program, particularly since, it's Friday, meaning we're doing the whole free-for-all Friday thing and taking on all the comments and calls we can throughout both hours of the program. So phone lines open now, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM, with Willie Jenkins, among other things, declaring it an old-school hip-hop Friday. Well, as long as we keep it clean, I got no problem with it. And James Holmes, I guess, on the similar vein there, as well as Ida Beza Gardner, happy Free For All Friday. Those dropping those likes and reacts that we certainly appreciate, including Ida Beza Gardner, RJ, Robbie Flores, Ted Kors, and Monica Cervantes. And so other commentary, including Buddy Valles with declaring it rock and roll, I guess, there. But a lot of other things, and we'll keep delving into the comments as we get through it. But again, if you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents that way. That number to do so is and will be open, if varying availability throughout the program, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And, of course, Talk El Paso, brought to you in part by Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Find them with their end of celebration sale at 950 Crockett Street, where, of course, you can get no payments for 90 days and great financing for well-qualified buyers. So find them there, 950 Crockett Street, Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. So delving right back into those phone lines. Now we do have Jerry on the northwest side of town on the line with us here right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. Right now, I'm in an area that's not in that area. In New Mexico, at another home that I have, where I'm getting out of the heat.
Oh, good.
The hottest day it's been is today, and it only reached 90. So,
well, we've had that
anyway.
we've had that humidity been bumping around a bit more. So I'm not saying that's, well, I prefer our dry heat, I'll be honest with you, but it does hit different whenever we get above like that 30% humidity.
Yeah. Anyway, that's not the reason I called. The reason I called
Sure.
was to ask you: have you heard about the CDC confirming that you can use ivermectin for COVID? It is permissible now. Has anybody reported on that to you?
Not that I've been hearing directly of. I mean, I was aware of those trials that had been going on previously to look at the possibility of it. I mean, ivermectin is, of course, it's prescribed for its own purposes before this. So if it's fully been admitted there, don't think I've seen that one come up just yet.
Okay, well, when they knew that this was good, that medicine was a good medicine prior to them coming up with their RMA shot from Pfizer and such.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why they did not want it, ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, was was because there is a law that states you cannot have an emergency medicine and not have it checked out if there is already a medicine, a cure available. So basically, Pfizer stopped or preventing the CDC from approving it so that Pfizer can become rich. And there's a lot of people in Washington that have stock in Pfizer and the other medical, I can't remember which one it was, not Johnson & Johnson. The other pharmaceutical medicine company that produce the mRNA shot for COVID. So a lot of this, 800 million people in the world died during COVID. Is that correct? My recollection?
Yeah, I don't. I think you may have added a zero there because that would be a significant portion of the population of the Earth.
Well, okay. Yeah, I may have 800,000 people died.
Let me double check that one, but
excuse me.
Okay, there have been nearly 800 million confirmed cases. That's the one.
Okay.
But not deaths. Ooh, yeah, not deaths.
Died?
Let me see about that. About 7 million is what I'm seeing, but let me double check the source on that one.
At any rate, none of them had to die without taking that medicine if they would just have allowed it to been used when it was first introduced in May of 2000. So maybe we have people out there that are in our running this nation that are there for nothing more than making money, getting rich, and they're allowing people to die. Right? What was that old phrase? During Bush lied and people died? Guess what? A lot of people up there like Joe Biden lied and people died. He's the one that prevented a lot of this. It was on his watch. Now, I do agree that Donald Trump had the first shot at it, and he's the one that wanted to do the turbo boost for the mRNA thing. But
sure, an Operation Warp Speed, yeah,
Operation Warp Speed, I agree. But Biden is just as guilty, just as bad. So,
okay,
you know, they did put a lot of people in prison after World War II for killing less people.
I would say there's probably a little bit of a difference of the way it works, though. Profit, I mean, let's call it the difference between death camps and vaccine requirements. Though I will say, when you're talking about the profit motive part of this and the way that ends up working here, again, whether or not there ever be any, casual full links drawn between that. What I will say on the idea of particularly profit motives affecting legislators in general. And there are literally people out there that run, I don't think full hedge funds have been authorized this way, but that have been saying, hey, I just watch what our legislators at all levels are doing, primarily federal because they have the most impact. But I know of some that watch them at their state level as well, because there is no insider trading when it comes to someone who is in elected office. Now, in other places,
not supposed to be.
Yeah, well,
not supposed to be.
Well, there basically isn't. So if there's something on their committee and part of it, they may be ethics rules, but there is nothing that actually isn't preventing them from, again, literally people who are watching, they do have to report their transactions. There are certain requirements along those lines, but they're not prohibited from doing them. And it's been noted in many other previous times that there have been certain individuals making certain decisions that just happen to have these actions happening right before them. So I'm just saying that as a larger issue, but in a very much related to what you're talking about, if we want to have people making decisions on what they think is best and not just best for them, that would probably go a good long way to dealing with that.
Yes, and even Dr. Fauci had stock in some of them companies, especially the mRNA patents. So, wake up, America. You're being screwed over. You're being lied to and being taken advantage of. Basically, you're being raped. You have a good day, Andrew.
Yeah, well,
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but man, we need to wake up out there, people.
I mean,
Thank you, Andrew.
yeah, well, fair enough. Well, appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
Bye-bye.
All right, and with that, I think we're go ahead and take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we'll get to more calls, more comments, more of the things we do on Friday, as it is Free for All Friday, meaning we're taking on all the comments and calls we do through both hours of the show here. So getting into it and getting further into it. So again, that number, if you want to get on the line, is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Lines available now. And back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
With your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz Dewicki. Animal cruelty charges have been filed after 2 malnourished dogs were found at a house in Chaparral, New Mexico. The dogs were removed from the home last week and are in the custody of Callista Animal Hospital, where vets say they are responding to treatment and doing well. The hospital also accepting donations for the animals' vet bills and treatment. 112 arrests were made during an 11-day violent crime suppression task force operation conducted by the El Paso Police Department. 12 arrests were made for weapon-involved cases and 10 weapons were seized. El Paso police say they have seen an increase in violent crime recently, but during the operation noticed a drop by about 30%. As a reminder, you can send crime tips by using the Tip 411 app located on the police department's website. All lanes of Gateway South and Gateway North at Sean Haggerty Drive are back open right now after a crash involving a semi-truck and another vehicle. It happened about 1:30 a.m. Friday morning. One person was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. The accident is still under investigation. For your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz Dewicki.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 westbound at Paisano, an earlier crash is partially blocking the right lane. 15-minute delays, stop and go back to Hawkins. I-10 eastbound slow with stop and go delays from Piedras to Trowbridge. In the lower valley, there's a crash southbound Loop 375 at Pan American Drive. That's off to the right. No lanes seem to be blocked. Southbound Mesa Street is slow from Desert Boulevard down to Wyoming downtown. It's 8-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Temperatures are still going to be hot for the weekend, but they should come down a little. We'll see partly cloudy skies, some breezy conditions on Saturday, high around 100 degrees for your Sunday, partly cloudy, breezy, high around 99. Maybe some slight storm chances getting back in the forecast early next week. We'll see partly cloudy skies, 10% chance of a storm for your Monday, high around 97. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has what you need for travel. Passport photos, luggage, headphones, even personal travel-sized items. Now get $10 off your purchase of 30 or more when you buy a travel service. In-store only offer ends September 16th. Exclusions apply. Staples, your first stop to nonstop travel.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Trade up to a new or certified pre-owned vehicle for thousands less. Right now, our prices are the best in town.
Get huge savings on hundreds of new and certified pre-owned vehicles and more for your trade. For a limited time, everyone gets employee pricing on 2023 Jeep Gladiator trucks and super low 1.9% APR for 72 months. Take $6,000 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500 trucks or 2.9% APR for 72 months. Take $2,500 off MSRP on 2023 Dodge Charger and Challenger. Get $2,500 off MSRP on 2023 Chrysler 300. Worried about your credit or worried that you're upside down on your trade? Our aggressive lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect or if you owe more than your trade is worth. Get huge savings and more for your trade during the Make This the Summer Sales event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 1.9% APR is $1,471 and 2.9% is $1,515 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Keep your family and livelihood safe with Mazer Security Alarms. Systems start at under $35 per month. No job is too small or too large. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Never heard of us? We know. But to help it stick that our local agents are insurance experts, we're going to say local agent 3 times in the next 5 seconds. Local agent, local agent, local agent.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com.
This report is sponsored by ComparionInsurance.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Ruley's International Kitchen stopped by and had some of their great appetizers myself today, including their pesto fries. But for any occasion or certainly those special celebrations, Ruley's International Kitchen right over there, not too far from Mesa and Executive, 4176 North Mesa is the destination I've been going to for years. Literally catered my wedding, and we definitely were going since before then and have been going back ever since. Always great features, including going on tonight, their Rick at Night features, including reverse happy hours and their wood-fired pizza specials going on 9 to 11 Friday and Saturdays, all for the month of August. So check them out for that. And, of course, all their other features. Always new things on the board, at the door. Check them out. Ruley's International Kitchen. Give them a call. Make your reservation, 915-313-4806. That's 915-313-4806. Or, of course, online at ruleysik.com. That's RULISIK.com.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to tune in, chime in, participate in the show, add your 2 cents, including those phone lines. Full up again at the moment, but just keep that number handy. And again, when one call ends, another line becomes available. 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And, well, yeah, we'll just keep talking about the things going on affecting us in El Paso and, of course, beyond, as there is quite a lot of things and issues developing in and around our region, such as at least one more here. There is apparently some back and forth on the whole EVISD physical education requirements, and well, they may have been going back on that one again. Some from El Paso Matters about dropping mandatory PE for elementary school students. So yeah, we got that'll apparently be a kerfuffle hole next week as well. But anyway, let's dive back into those phone lines right now, as we have other commentary going on and a lot of other comments included about discussing about things like the vaccine, the policies around it, Ukraine. I mean, there's a lot of major things going on around the world, but let's go to those phone lines now. We do have Raul in the Northeast online with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, before I talk about what I want to talk about, I want to address Dr. Mumbling Ben. You know, Mumbling Ben, I saw Trump whip up his mob that he invited to Washington, D.C. before attacking the Capitol. Trump told his crowd and the Secret Service agents in charge of him that he wanted to lead them to the Capitol. I watched Trump's second impeachment hearing and the January 6th congressional hearing that resulted in Trump criminally indicted by the Department of Justice. Historic, unprecedented. Did you watch those proceedings, Ben? I doubt it. I saw and heard the witnesses who claimed Trump did nothing for 3 hours while his family, staff, and friends repeatedly implored him to call off his mob, which he allowed to assault Capitol officers and destroy government property for 3 hours. Did you watch that, Ben? You know, Trump's guilt or innocence will be ultimately adjudicated in court by a jury of his peers, okay? Now to the 8 survey questions from 3 polling organizations, including one from Fox News, all dealing. Now, this came out from the Associated Press in conjunction with the National Opinion Research Corporation. 4 quick questions. Here we go. Would you support Trump if he was the 2024 GOP nominee? 64% of respondents said definitely, probably wouldn't, okay? This is your independents, by the way, I think. Definitely, probably would, 36%. There's a hardcore lemmings in Trump's cult. Opinions on Trump, unfavorable, 62%. Favorable, 33%. Again, there's your hardcore cult members. Decision to indict Trump. Okay, in that case, over the 1-6 attack, approved 53%, disapproved 29%. It's always around that 30%, that really, really hardcore group of people. Number 4, Trump's actions in cases against him. Now, they broke this down into 4 categories and 2 major categories: classified documents, Georgia election interference, federal election interference, and hush money payments. And they broke into 2 major categories are either illegal or, let's go all the other way, nothing. It was nothing. Now, classified documents, 53% of Americans think that it was illegal. 15% think it was nothing. Those are your super hardcore cult members there. Okay. Georgia election interference, 51% thought it was illegal. Again, nothing, 15%. Federal election interference, 47%, nothing, 21%. So there's your hardcore lemmings in the cult. Now over here, now we have the Fox News poll. There's 2 questions that they asked. Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. Something illegal, 53%. Nothing seriously wrong, 24%. Okay, there's your Fox listeners and your station listeners here. Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. Now they broke it down into Republicans, Democrats, and independents. So this gives us a reading of what independents are thinking. And the 2 major categories were something illegal or nothing seriously wrong. Okay, something illegal. Only 13% of Republicans think it was something illegal. 90% of Democrats thought it was something illegal. And here's the important number, because these are the people who are going to determine the results, the independents. The 62% of independents who think that Trump did something illegal, okay? And only 11% of independents think he didn't do anything wrong. So not too many of those. Quinnipiac did a poll, 2 questions. Should Trump be prosecuted on criminal charges linked to the 2020 election? 54% yes, 42% no. Last question here, and then we can talk about it if you're up to it, or ask your listeners to call and chime in on it. Now this has to do with whether Trump's actions after the 2020 election did more to threaten democracy than to defend it. Okay. Overall, 54% of the people thought that Trump's actions did more to threaten democracy than defend it. And only 19% thought otherwise. Among Republicans, on the other hand, 43% of them think that Trump's actions did more to defend democracy than to threaten it. And only 23% of Republicans, that's interesting, I didn't think there would have been that many. 23% of Republicans think that Trump did something to threaten democracy than defend it. So the numbers aren't the traitorous.
Raul, we keep having interruptions on this here, so I think we're starting to lose you there at the end of this. But what I will say is that in terms of, the many issues that the former president is facing in court, there, of course, been the movements, the things that were then hinted at and then came out this week. And he has, of course, professed his own vociferous defense on this, and we'll see how that one ends up working out. But I will say this, that also from Fox News in this case, does stick out to me that Donald Trump is still considered now, down slightly. He's at 53% in an August 11th through 14th poll with Republican primary voters with a margin of error of 4.5%. So it's, he could be under the 50% mark within that margin of error potentially, though the next closest one to him is still DeSantis, who has taken a noticeable dive in the polls himself here. So that is not to say that invalidates what you're talking about, but I will say this, that as much as the idea of, as you're referring to, cult members there, that smacks a lot of the idea of the same line of argument as basket of deplorables, and I just got to ask you, how well do you think that one ended up working out in terms of rhetoric and things? There are very serious charges that have been levied, and at this point, I don't think even a dismissal of the charges would be satisfactory in any real substantive way, because without seeing it fully adjudicated and dealt with, there's always going to be, at the very least, in portions of that audience as well as others, of the question of, was this dropped or was this dealt with appropriately? So want to see all of these be completed through. I think that would be something that most people could end up agreeing on at this point in time. Whatever you think the outcome of it should be, that is certainly up for variance. But I will say this, if you're expecting that these things will therefore, sink the former president's chances, I mean, he's still, again, the wide and out front runner and has indeed been campaigning, well, not so much campaigning, certainly fundraising on these issues has been going on with it. Haven't seen as much of them lately. I think my spam filter must have gotten a little bit more aggressive than it used to be. But I do know that particularly on these type of things, that there's just a lot that ends up being put out in statements and other ways. So let's just put it this way. Do want to see these cases go through to their completion without there being any questions about issues with them, about how they were moved through, because that's about the only way I think we're going to get through this in any kind of reasonable conclusion. That's just the way I feel about it at this point in time. But if you're expecting that the specter of these, I mean, there's been some font about maybe this trying to be delayed further, maybe even until after the 2024 election. I do not expect that to be really possible at this point in time. Like any of the cases that we're talking about here, that does not seem to be particularly viable with the judges or whatever organizations are in charge of these particular legal venues. So that is to say, do expect that these could come before, and I've seen a chart that I couldn't find here at the moment of how long before some of the primary or even main election dates. Some of these would then be moving through and expected to actually start taking place, the trials or the court proceedings overall. And we're starting to get some very close margins indeed. So certainly something we'll keep an eye on here. I'll just, again, recommend to you, particularly as I don't think I didn't get the slight jab at the listeners to this station kind of aspect of it here, because we continue to do our own thing on this show, even if we do open up the floodgates on Friday. But if you're really wanting to just pillory the people who disagree with you and say, oh, look at the guy that is the leading of it, I mean, I would say that there are plenty of people, of course, still obviously with the poll numbers, support the former president, but also some others who are looking for, I would say that pretty much all of the rest of the numbers, including DeSantis's descent from his second, well, pretty close to with Vivek Ramaswamy, next closest, I would say there, 11% again, according to the Fox News poll on that one. So they're within pretty, well, not quite the margin of error of each other, but getting close enough, looking for the other one. And I will also say we do still have, at least as of last check, the former Texas 23rd Congressional District Representative Will Hurd in the race, though he's pretty firmly in the also ran category at this point with pretty near, he's not making the top 5 by any means, but I think he's in the 1% or around 1%. So do think that that's marching for second place until, frankly, I don't know if anyone else will be able to come out on top of the former president in the primary polls until they actually start talking about him directly. I think that the major reason that some people ended up gravitating away from DeSantis, from those that I know that have been most involved in it anyway, have been his unwillingness to directly challenge or distance or differentiate himself more specifically from the former president. So, yeah, I think that this race will continue on in this pace unless there are some other major sea changes. So we'll go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more of the calls, more of the comments, more of everything we do at this point during the show and the week. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso after this break. Again, lines now open, 915, or available, I should say, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
2 crashes on the I-10, slowing traffic. I-10 eastbound at Piedras, a crash involving multiple vehicles off to the left. I-10 westbound at Geronimo, a crash involving a couple of vehicles off to the right. I-10 westbound is slow. Hawkins to the Patriot with 15-minute delays. Right turn only lane is blocked by a tow truck. And East Border Highway at exit 48, congestion has got traffic backed up to Padres. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Dog days of summer got your business needing help? Check out Indeed, an all-in-one hiring solution that makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey guys, this is Andrew J. Polk. My not-so-secret way of looking and feeling great is going to Hammer and Nails, El Paso's newest men's grooming destination, with everything about your personal grooming, privacy, and comfort in mind. Ready with your favorite drink at the door. They offer everything from head to toe, hair, beard, mustache, and hand and foot services. You want to find out about their full services and their great memberships. Of course, find them online, hammerandnailsgrooming.com. That's hammer, A-N-D, nailsgrooming.com. And I'll see you there. The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Make the right choice for your home when it comes to windows and doors. For more than 20 years, the Window Depot has provided the best price and biggest inventory on in-stock windows and doors. The Window Depot is open to the public, so whether you're a homeowner or a contractor, you can shop the enormous warehouse. Browse the shelves with over 1,000 vinyl windows, interior and patio doors and skylights in several varieties and sizes available to go home today. Shop thewindowdepot.com or find a location near you. Lowest prices, biggest inventory.
Hi, we're Comparing Insurance Agency. Never heard of us? We know. But to help it stick that our local agents are insurance experts, we're going to say local agent 3 times in the next 5 seconds. Local agent, local agent, local agent.
Find us at comparinginsurance.com.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of people commenting particularly about the other parts of the race, particularly the Republican primary at this point. But James Radcliffe asking, okay, I took this one way and realized you may have meant it another, so let me know which one you intended, or maybe both, potentially, asking who is Hurd. I mean, I took it as Will Hurd, the former representative for the Texas 23rd Congressional District, the Republican who represented it right before the current one, Tony Gonzalez, of course, so better part of 3-4 years ago at this point. But then I realized you might be making it like, wait, who is Hurd? Like, I mean, yeah, he's, according to recent reporting from The Hill on 538 numbers, he's at 0.2%. So I was slightly incorrect about being, frankly, anywhere near the 1% mark. And he's got some interesting taglines to his campaign that I had seen the launch of it, but hadn't really been following it that closely, except for the in our region previous connection anyway, is branding himself a modern Republican and patriotic force in 2024, but he has also said that he, I guess, he was previously not totally on board with particularly representing the 23rd, the Big Bend area, and the whole border wall construction issues, butted heads with the administration at that point in time and has been continuing to be a vocal critic. I'm not willing to call him the most critical of the former president in the Republican primary race, but if there's anyone else besides him, anyone close enough, I'd be surprised. Anyway, I think we have time to at least squeeze in one more call during this hour, and we'll, of course, continue on in the second hour of the show as well. And we do have Richard in the Northeast on the line with us here right now. Richard, thanks for joining us.
Hello, I'll try to be brief. It's been a while since I talked to you. A lot of good topics at hand. But I wanted to discuss further some of the discussion in terms of El Paso and its expansion. And I normally don't reference other callers, but I've listened to Marco, I respect what he says. However, when it comes to politics, I just simply don't agree. I'm on the other side.
Sure.
But if he runs for mayor, I like his ideas, but I think that needs more discussion. And actually, the reason why I'm saying now, there's going to be a time where that discussion come into play about his revitalization efforts. But I like to remind him, based on other experience I've had in other cities, anytime it comes to those kind of projects, development as we're seeing in El Paso, the new budget, I think, signed by the governor for the roads, it's simply going to cost money. And the other thing that comes along that I mentioned on the show before, that any growth that we're seeing in a city like El Paso, everybody's taxes is going to go up one way or another, so we might as well quit complaining about it. But I would like to get together with Marco sometime and tell him about that, because I have worked in urban planning. I have seen revitalization projects like this before that he's proposing. And you know what? I think it is special in the downtown area for the simple fact that one thing I've always acknowledged since moving to the area is our proximity right next to Watts.
Sure.
I think that, geography, cultural landscapes are a very important part of the discussion. But in order to achieve a lot of these things, you have to let the public weigh in. And I think that's going to be a challenge, But, based, for example, I know you're always bemoaning the fact that when it comes to local elections, nobody votes. That is one problem right there.
Yep.
So that's going to take a lot of messaging and so forth. But I'm curious to follow up on this discussion, because I like those ideas, because I am progressive in that respect. But there's a lot of things that need to be factored in. And I think one of the other things, the attributes of El Paso that I learned, there's simply a lot of natives here that are kind of resistant to that kind of a change. So that's another obstacle. So anyway, that's my quick synopsis. I just want to weigh in because I don't call very often, but there you go.
All right, well, appreciate you bringing up some of those things. We'll talk more about those as well, but do appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there. All right, and with that, we do have to get pretty close to that break right now. And I will say that, even before you said it, the whole apathy local. And but the last part you say, the last thing you said that I also find interesting is it's not as much the apathy, but we've always done that way here. And yet the problem or the question I often find that is not being asked in that as a follow-up is, but was it ever good? Like, was ever a good reason we did it that way, or is it just the way we've done it? So there's a whole lot more organizationally, socially, politically to be dealt with in our region when it comes to pretty much any of those. But let's go and take that break and get back on track for the top of the hour right now. Again, you are tuned in to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Whole lot more coming in, whole another hour to come as well. So keep that number handy. Again, 915-544-5876. 544 KTSM. Back after this break and the top of the hour news here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere. Particularly for anyone looking online, you may have seen I got my ears lowered, and I had the great services over from Hammer and Nails Men's Grooming in El Paso, one of the newer options, and why I dare say one of the best options, because right over there at the Fountains of Fair, pretty centrally located for just about any way you're coming from, and they have a great slew of services, particularly if you're going up with their memberships, affordable options, including their, of course, Club Lux, top-of-the-line services, unlimited services each month, and even bring a friend along with you. For the full details, make your appointment and see their full suite of options, literally head to toe. Everything from beard trims that I definitely appreciated, haircuts, facial services, hand and feet care. They've got you covered. Hammer and Nails Grooming. So if you want to find them online, that is their website, hammerandnailsgrooming.com. That's hammerandnailsgrooming.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
If you're in a slowdown on the I-10, it might be because one of two accidents. I-10 eastbound at Piedras, a crash from earlier. I-10 westbound at Geronimo, multiple vehicles off to the right from an earlier crash. Westbound I-10 has stop-and-go traffic from Hawkins to the Patriot with 12-minute delays. In the lower valley, eastbound on Border Highway at Zaragoza exit, that exit ran partially blocked due to heavy traffic with a backup to Padres. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Protection for all, peace of mind for you. For over 40 years, Mazer Security Alarms has proudly served El Paso with superior service and protection. Locally owned and operated, Mazer Security Alarms created Super Switch technology to prevent false alarms and keep your business and family safe. You can afford the best. For your free quote or to upgrade your existing system, call Mazer Security Alarms at 915-590-0033. That's 915-590-0033. Mazer Security Alarms.
Stay informed at kcsmradio.com. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. Hillary remains a powerful Category 4 hurricane in the Pacific, and it's prompted the first ever tropical storm watch for Southern California. The latest report from the National Hurricane Center says Hillary is expected to turn more northwest later on with a faster motion toward the north tomorrow night into Sunday. It's likely to be a historic event. Lucinda Kay explains.
The last time a tropical storm hit Southern California was in 1939. 45 people died and it caused $2 million in damage. That's like $44 million in today's money. The National Weather Service says it's likely to generate torrential rains, freakishly high temps overnight, like in the 80s. Emergency crews say it's a triple threat: high surf, heavy rain in a short amount of time, and strong winds. I'm Lucinda Kay.
People on the Hawaiian island of Maui are bracing for what could be a devastating death toll as more than 1,000 people are still missing. Search and rescue teams are digging through the ashes and rubble of what was the town of Lahaina. The top Maui emergency management official who didn't sound warning sirens as wildfire swept across the island has resigned. Herman Andaya says he does not regret not sounding the sirens because they're typically used as tsunami warnings to tell people to seek higher ground.
And if that was the case, then they would have gone into the fire.
Reports say former President Trump is expected to surrender at an Atlanta jail at the end of next week. NBC News reports law enforcement officials are anticipating Trump will surrender no earlier than Thursday in his Georgia election case. The U.S. Border Patrol says migrant encounters are down from this time last year. In new statistics released on Friday, federal officials said encounters in July decreased by 27% compared to July 2022. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The Biden administration has approved sending F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine to help fight Russian forces. Mark Mayfield reports.
A U.S. official confirmed on Thursday that the American-made planes will be sent from Denmark and the Netherlands as soon as pilot training is completed. Ukraine has been lobbying for F-16s to help fight against Russian air superiority. President Biden endorsed F-16 training programs for Ukrainian pilots back in May, with the training to be held in Denmark and Romania. It's unclear when the training program will begin. Ukrainian officials say they don't expect to use the F-16s until next year.
A majority of Americans support the writers' and actors' strikes, and many also have a negative view of Hollywood studios. A new poll by Data for Progress shows 2 in 3 American voters support the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Just 18% are against the strike. New York City is launching a major push to get kids vaccinated before school starts 3 weeks from now. Sarah Lee Kessler reports.
Health officials want parents to put vaccinations on their children's back-to-school to-do list, and that means all pediatric shots required by state law, including measles, polio, mumps, and chickenpox. So at backpack giveaways, they've got vaccine too.
We're screening everyone and offering vaccination to everyone.
City Health Commissioner Dr. Ashan Vasan says it's especially important with an influx of 18,000 migrant children this year and COVID numbers ticking up again. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
Americans will likely run out of their pandemic savings this quarter. That's according to a study from the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. They estimate American households held less than $190 billion in total surplus savings as of June, after quickly saving up unprecedented levels of extra funds during the COVID pandemic. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Get ready to win your way to our 2023 iHeartRadio Music Festival and $1,000.
You'll be there.
T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas.
September 22nd and 23rd.
Streaming live only on Hulu.
The iHeartRadio Music Festival.
The Hartford Small Business Insurance knows that opening a small business is a great achievement. Thanks to all the owners for all they do to keep our communities vibrant and strong. Learn more about the Hartford Small Business Insurance and why over 1 million small business owners trust them. Visit thehartford.com/smallbusiness.
This report is sponsored by ComparionInsurance.com.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Never heard of us? We know. But to help it stick that our local agents are insurance experts, we're going to say local agent 3 times in the next 5 seconds. Local agent, local agent, local agent.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com.
Are you a business owner, CEO, or responsible for marketing? If you are, iHeartMedia can help you reach your goals and find new customers. We reach more consumers in your target area than anyone else. And we can give you access to those potential customers more cost effectively across radio, digital, podcasting, and social. We'd love to show you how iHeartMedia can work for you. From your cell, dial pound 250 and say keyword great results. That's pound 250 and say great results.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. Education doesn't just take place in the classroom. There are many ways children of all ages can learn about sustainability and the environment at home. Visit iHeartRadio.com/Earth for a list of resources, activity guides, and toolkits that are educational and fun for the whole family. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Our iHeartRadio Music Festival is coming back to T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas this September.
Superstar artists from every genre.
Streaming live only on Hulu.
Buy tickets now at AXS.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tony Evans, and I'm excited to have you join me on this new podcast, Heroes in the Bible.
Come to me, boy. You and your God will crumble beneath my feet.
He beckoned the giant and said,
I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts and creator of the stars.
Listen to Heroes in the Bible with Dr. Tony Evans on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we are up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk. So whatever works for you, every day we're able to sign in, see us, be a part of the show to the level that you want to. So you don't have to if you want to sit back, relax, and be along for the ride, particularly on a Friday. Free for All Friday definitely going on. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff, a lot of conversation going on today. We'll say that I saw the what was being talked about earlier is one of the commenters brought up the CNN story about, Afghanis awaiting U.S. resettlement say they're being deported from Pakistan back to the Taliban, though in one of the other recent ones, other things that was being actually, I do believe, out as of yesterday, USA Today article saying, no, FDA did not quietly approve ivermectin as COVID-19 treatments. So some of the things that have been brought up here so far today, but let's get right back into the show here and again get to those phone lines. That number to do so is of course 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Pull up at the moment, just keep the number handy. We do have Mike calling in from the Ruidoso area with us right now. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Hey Andrew,
yeah, what's on your mind?
I want to talk a little about Maui and
why
it's
sure
so long to find these people.
Sure thing. I mean, yeah, just some of the images of the devastation that have come out of that place. I mean, just a completely gray landscape, almost make it hard to imagine how bad it was there during the height of the storm, the firestorm that sounds like it erupted itself.
Yeah, I don't have any contacts. It's just, it doesn't seem like our system is working very much when we can't find 1,000 people. And I actually have cadaver dogs.
Really?
So that's pretty much it. I don't know what's taken so long for these guys.
I would ask you this, if you have experience with the cadaver dogs particularly, how effective are they in a situation where there's been like a fire and not even just like a small one, but a building encompassing kind of thing?
Yeah, they definitely lose their scent. I mean, I have coon hounds, but the problem is when I was up in Oregon, a woman begged me to find her son who it turned out committed suicide. And I went down to search and rescue, and, they have rules and regulations where you have to have your dogs on a leash. Well, my dogs can't do diddly on a leash. They got to run.
Sure.
And they cover about 5 miles. So,
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Well, appreciate the perspective and your comment there, and do appreciate the call. You have a good one.
All right, Andrew. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, that's the recovery effort. I mean, the amount of recovery dollars that are getting thrown around. And don't get it wrong, I do believe we were taking some other calls during the break, but the talk about what may or may not be happening with that hurricane, that is, yes, Hurricane Hillary is actually what it's called. It's not another political line. The one that is expected to slam into Southern California, and we may be getting some of the dregs here, or some of the forecast, like in the days afterwards. So we'll see what happens out of that here, but I definitely don't think any of the things will be, we're not immediately in the crosshairs, but we might get some of the kind of like we have in, well, usually from more Gulf Coast type hurricanes, some of the resulting storms coming through this area. In any case, let's go ahead and get back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to do so, okay, that just filled up again from the one that Mike was on, but again, keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Eric on the east side here with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Well, hello there. Just like when Jerry trivialized the Holocaust on your show, he now uses the term rape in frivolous ways to promote outrage over made-up political reasons. But let me tell you, Jerry, the judge who oversaw Trump's rape case said, the finding that Miss Carroll failed to prove that she was raped within the meaning of the New York penal law does not mean that she failed to prove that Trump raped her, as many people commonly understand the word rape, Kaplan wrote. He added, indeed, as the evidence at the trial recounted below makes clear, the jury found that Mr. Trump, in fact, did exactly that. So Trump was found to have raped a woman in the court of law, and conservatives love him even more for this, according to the polls, because most conservatives have no respect for women. Conservatives openly defend and promote rape culture as part of their traditionalist values, and anti-woke culture, assuming and saying women like the woman Trump raped asked for it whenever they are victimized. This needs to be noted and doesn't get any attention from the right-wing media for obvious reasons. But on a different note, to lie to one person is disrespectful, and to lie to thousands is incredibly unethical. And to lie to cover up an attempt to steal a presidential election is traitorous. And those in the media, like Tucker Carlson, and those on this station who are paid to deceive the poorly informed, who make the mistake of thinking they're good faith and honest, they need to be repeatedly informed of these moral truths, because they are literally destroying our country from within as we speak. Like these right-wing information sources are currently burning the country and its institutions to the ground, and causing widespread terrorism once again with their partisan lies they are telling to cover up Trump's coup attempt. Like they learned the consequences of their election fraud lies on January 6th, and now they're telling more terrorism-causing lies to cover up Trump's proven coup attempt he's being prosecuted for in multiple jurisdictions. And, these people in right-wing media are almost as big of traitors to the country as Donald Trump himself, because without them, these election fraud lies that cause terrorism could not be believed by millions. Without them defending Trump's lies, this lying traitor couldn't be the front runner for the presidential nominee for the Republican Party.
You've accused me in the past, including this week, of trying to cover up things, and yet I would say it's not particularly a secret, even if we do our own things Monday through Friday, and still taking it as if you're going to want to, again, free for all Friday, we do what we are. But if you're going to try to say, particularly when it comes to the on this station, try to use this program to, even as you're saying that these need to be loudly talked about, I got to ask, do you attempt to call any of these other shows to discuss them with them directly, these people that you are saying and you're wanting to respond to and directly answer to them? Do you make those attempts? I got to ask.
Too many people call in. But if you look at your own show on January 13th, 2023, at the 1 hour mark, it shows in no uncertain terms that after months and months of you pretending to know what was or wasn't discussed in the January 6 hearings, that you didn't know the state elector plot was a central part of it, and you continued to denigrate those hearings. And the state elector...
Okay, no. If we're going to go back to previously adjudicated issues here, let's go ahead and do that. Yes, the state elector plot was a part of it. It's not the part that I was primary focused on, but I do know that, of course, it had come up, the idea of having other slates elected happening within different other areas. But the point was, and that you still have not, I mean, you can't actually tell me what was wrong with my conclusions, that the outcome of the January 6th hearings, the ones happening before Congress, of course, now there are legal proceedings that are going through, happening through the other branch of government, the judicial branch, that basically my contention was at the time that if you feel that there are truly traitorous things going on, and I would actually do feel the need to further note that treason, not one of the charges that he is being taken with here. So, I mean, you're welcome to use the rhetoric that you want. That is your right as an American and the First Amendment. But let's make sure we're talking about what is like actually those indictments. That thing you asked me if I'd read, that I'm wondering if you have as well. What is the roughly 50 page, 49, technically damage near at 50. But let's put it this way, that the consequences from the January 6th hearings, the contention I was making at the whole time was that, I mean, I would want to see more about particularly the security of the Capitol, because I find it still, the concept, ludicrous at best that any just rando or group of randos would be able to get into the Capitol. I mean, literally, there are things that you can put over films of glass that make it so that you can't just punch through it, even with, 2x4s or security gates, anything like that. So that's ludicrous at its face. I got to be honest with you. But that the other consequences, specifically for Donald Trump himself there, I mean, any of the other things that have even come out before the recent weeks and months that we've seen the cases being formed against the former president, those were not happening based on those proceedings. They were then being handed over to criminal proceedings happening again through the not the legislative, that is, but the judicial branch of government. So the contention that, again, continuing with, to boil it down entirely here for you, is that out of the January 6 hearings, there was going to be, I mean, two major outcomes that were really possible. One was going to be a contempt of Congress charge, which, given that of the things that have happened in all of the various legal proceedings involving the former president, I would say his lawyers have done a pretty good job of trying to make sure that he doesn't end up under oath and talking in front of anybody that can, again, administer that kind of an oath, because as is, I would say, pretty well known, he does tend to aggrandize, make statements that may or may not actually bear out once he's no longer on a podium kind of situation. Israelis come to mind here. I don't think that's a particular secret, but that the other part of it, so contempt of Congress, was not really on the table since he did not end up doing that testifying part of it, but that the other part of essentially removal from office, impeachment further on, was a moot point. So, I mean, I still got to ask you, as we keep going back and doing this whole yo-yo argument thing, you do get that there were no other legal penalties that could have resulted for him out of that process until it went on to the separate process that we're looking at now, right?
Yeah, they did all the interviews, the sworn testimonies that proved Trump tried to steal the election, that went to the DOJ, and you saying that, oh, they didn't discuss how the right-wing terrorists entered the Capitol, that the January 6th hearings,
not what I said, but okay,
didn't discuss that. That you didn't even know the state elector plot was a part of the January 6 hearings, which proved that he tried to...
Are you really whataboutism me right now? Or is that really what you're doing? Because two things can be true at the same time here. And I'm not saying they had no discussion of it here, but that has not been fully resolved is, I mean, are you comfortable with the fact and the idea that there could be massive security breaches at, I mean, I'm sure there's differences at like the Pentagon, particularly since there has been literal armed attacks on the Pentagon. Well, I mean, if you consider a plane unarmed, in which case I would personally, that this is, I mean, the fact that could happen, that does that not disturb you in the slightest?
Try to pay attention for a moment.
Oh,
the state
really?
elector plot that was central to the hearings, you did not know about it. Straight up, you have no clue what was discussed in the January 6 hearings because you didn't watch them.
Okay, my dude, do know about the state elector plots. We've talked about them. So if we're going to be doing this, well, you didn't explicitly mention it, or any of that kind of crap here. Like, let's be honest here. If you're going to be doing this whataboutism, if you want to actually talk about the issues. We have, on occasion, had actual discussions about issues, and I still contend that we do tend to agree on more things than we don't, but you don't seem to like to let the things that, because you can't imagine someone else disagreeing with you without having something wrong about it, like when you declared me an oracle for El Paso the other day, as has come up in the comments recently. So, okay, my dude, again, if you're going to actually listen here, and I don't think I don't notice the times you're trying to flip the script, flip the lines on here when I have literally asked you in the past, are you actually paying attention to what I'm saying? Because I still think that you don't. You keep using lines like proven when, again, was not proven in the legal sense that you are, again, using here. So, again, the contention is and continues to be that the January 6th hearings themselves did not have legal consequences that amounted to very substantive for the former president. Now it ended up going into legal proceedings that have, of course, amounted in very serious charges. But the question that I continue to pose is, wouldn't you want to start with that if you do feel that those were the issues? And, okay, political proceedings that happen before Congress, again, not saying political as the, oh, these are just politics or like politically correct or anything like that, but there are political consequences outside of very specific, again, those two sets of them. And so putting it forth into the public sphere, the pillaring that you do seem to enjoy, I do have to say, was very much a pretty transparent purpose behind it there. So, I mean, if that's just what it was, like, fine, go ahead and admit that, but then say that if you're really wanting this to have been the outcome that you were putting forth from the start, the whole treason argument you put forth, again, just the question of logic is then why not start with that if, again, the pillaring wasn't the main point, purpose out and focus on it there. So, again, we're going to go ahead and appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth here. And again, I would love an answer to any of these questions we bring up on some of these things sometimes here. But we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. So you want to get on the line, add your 2 cents. The number, of course, to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Speaking of building security, Mazer Security Alarms has, of course, been present in El Paso for more than 40 years and accept no substitutes. When you are trusting your home or your business to these experts, make sure that they are certified and qualified to do the work that you want them to do. And that's why, again, Mazer Security Alarms does offer that and offers their free estimates so that you can have protection for all and peace of mind for yourself at home, at business, wherever you want anything protected and taken care of. So locally owned and operated, they develop things like super switch technology to prevent false alarms and keep, again, what's important to you safe. We have it here at the office, and that extra level of security that we have, that's only going to keep getting better as we get more and more installed. It's just going to be, well, more peace of mind for me as well. So you can get your free quote, and you can afford the best because, of course, they do offer those free estimates, and no job is too small or too large. Give them a call at 915-590-0033. That's 915-590-0033. Mazer Security Alarms.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier accident, I-10 westbound at Geronimo exit, still causing problems and stop-and-go traffic. I-10 westbound from Airway to the Patriot is a 10-minute delay. All lanes are back open from a cleared accident. I-10 eastbound at Piedras. A stalled vehicle is blocking the right lane on Pan American Drive southbound at Americas Avenue. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by ComparionInsurance.com.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Never heard of us? We know. But to help it stick that our local agents are insurance experts, we're going to say local agent 3 times in the next 5 seconds. Local agent, local agent, local agent.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com.
I'm back to doing what I love and more. Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Let's talk about good feet. Do you have good feet, or do you have tired, sore, or painful feet? Or maybe you even have pain in your hip, knees, or back, and you suspect it's coming from your feet. Hi, this is Mike with the Good Feet Store. With over 200 stores across the country, the Good Feet Store has accumulated thousands of 5-star reviews from people who struggle with problems just like these. You might ask, how do you get all those great positive reviews? Well, it may sound a little old-fashioned, but 5-star reviews come from our commitment to providing 5-star service. That's why we offer a lifetime warranty on all arch supports and a free fitting and test walk. You can try before you buy. So you've got nothing to lose. Stop in today and see what the Good Feet store can do for you.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Sandal season is here and Good Feet fits into all your summer shoes, even flip-flops.
It can happen so easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Turn your home into restricted airspace. Tell incoming flights you want them diverted. The new Raid Essentials light trap plugs into the wall and uses light to attract, then trap flying insects like fruit flies and mosquitoes. Its 24/7 continuous attraction provides insecticide-free protection that's people and pet friendly. Consider air service interrupted. New Raid Essentials light trap. Insecticide-free protection.
It can happen so easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio, 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Texas Mutual Insurance Company is bringing the WorkSafe Texas Summit to the El Paso area, happening for free Tuesday, September 19th at the Hotel Paso del Norte, bringing safety and compliance information that can help employers protect their workers and their liability. It's a 2.5-hour free event with, again, free breakfast and also free parking, as parking validation will be provided. It does include 2 interactive Q&A sessions with safety experts, including OSHA information panel and a workplace safety panel discussion with helpful resources, safety materials, and networking opportunities with other business owners and safety professionals. So to register for this and for your business, space is limited, to make sure to do it by September 12th at texasmutual.com/summit. That's texasmutual.com/summit. And be sure to go to the Texas Mutual Insurance Company's WorkSafe Texas Summit, September 19th at the Hotel Paso del Norte in downtown El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the program, particularly if you're tuning in on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or over on the various social media pages we're on these days: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of people tuning in, chiming in, adding their 2 cents over on the very different methods, including, of course, those likes and recs that we do appreciate. If you appreciate the ability to, well, have a show like this, talk about the things going on, and of course on Fridays beyond here in the borderland, we do have Matt Olson, Marky Mandingo, John Adams, Jim McCravey, James Ratcliffe, Angel Rueda, James Holmes, Ida Baez the Gardener, RJ, Robbie Flores, Ted Kors, and Monica Cervantes over on, again, letting us know that they appreciate, again, the ability. You don't have to necessarily like what we're talking about. Lord knows I don't. Like half the time I do feel like, but if it's important enough to talk about, well, that's a part of the determination. We'll leave up to y'all on a day like this when we are taking those comments and calls throughout both hours. So squeezing in what we can, particularly before the end of the next hour. We do have on the line with us right now. Okay, we had a call drop off, though filled up right again. Got to be Johnny on the spot with those calls sometimes. We do have Frankie and Messia on the line with us here right now. Frankie, thanks for joining us.
I have mentioned this at least 10 times over the period of I don't know how long. And our country, our republic, our representative republic, if you have got the majority of the people in our style of democracy that are stupid, we are at the end of it. We're done. We're finished. Now, in 2020, you had 74 million people voted for the Donnie Dotard, and 81 million people voted for Joe Biden. I don't care what the ins and outs of it is, but that was a saving grace. Now, let me just give you a quick little history lesson here, because I'm old enough to remember this, because I'm 82 years old. You know that, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So back in the late 50s and 60s, in the civil rights aspect, this was post, Emmett Till and Rosa Parks and stuff. There was very, very smart sociologists. What is the problem with so many white people in the Southwest border region that with like scraggly hair, bad teeth, stunk, had bib overalls and no shoelaces, beaten up on the same black person that stunk, had bad teeth, bib overalls, and stinky feet? What was the problem? What, you're in the same boat. And you know what it was? You know what it was? Huh? You know what they found out?
I'm assuming at least a little bit of maybe racism.
Well, that encompasses a lot. No, what it came down to in a sociological, psychological aspect was nobody, listen to me on this, for a lot of you in the Army out there, you'll know what I'm talking about. But basically what it comes down to, nobody wants to be at the end of the effluence. That's what it came down to, right there. They were in the same boat, Andrew, the white poor schlucks and the black poor schlucks. And because the white guy didn't want to be the last guy on the end of the dog doo-doo, he beat the crap out of the black guy. Now, how stupid is that? Now, transfer this out to where we are right now. With these idiots, these cultists that support the Donnie Dotard doofus, and they are very stupid by all stretches of the imagination, by all kinds of polls and stuff. The majority of white-collar, blue-collar, uneducated people vote for the Donnie Dotard. Now, there has to be something to be said about that. Now, God bless them. I don't know how this is working. I'm serious as a heart attack. I'm losing my mind. The point is, I don't know whether it's providence by the non-existent God of Abraham or it's just blind, goofy luck that the United States is still operating as it is today. And that's my opening comment.
So, I mean, a comment that comes to mind here, and I had to look at the attribution right now, and it is correctly attributed that it was President Johnson that said, if you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. He'll give him someone to look down on. He'll empty his pockets for you, as the idea. And that's why in a lot of the analysis that, well, basically race often ends up being a cover for class, to be honest with you, because the idea that, well, there's a certain people associated with a certain class, and the way of perpetuating those ideas are therefore perpetuating basically the power structures and things that come along with it, as well, it has proven persuasive throughout a lot of the history, particularly of this country, like you're mentioning there, correct or not, and oftentimes being very incorrect indeed. So the people are saying that, oh yeah, no, these people have it out for you. I mean, those are even still aspects of that exist, of course, certainly to this day. And it often ends up being a way of keeping people divided because, yeah, you may have, well, there's a lot of ways to put it here, but one that sticks with me is that you probably have more in common with your neighbor than someone, in the state or national capital making these decisions for you and telling you that you don't have more in common.
Well, look, I hear what you just said. But, I'm a history nut. I love Roman history. I love just history in general. And you want to know something? Yeah, we haven't changed that much going back 50,000 years. We're still just a bunch of bozos. Now, let me say this one last thing. I heard Richard, and I remember Richard, because he's a big supporter of the Donnie Dotard doofus. And Marco, I want you to listen to this. Richard wants to support you. I want you to know this, Marco. He wanted to provide extra money for your Donnie Dotard doofus to pay for jet fuel for his airplane. A billionaire. Now you think about that, Marco. You want a guy that wants to give money to a billionaire and you want him to be in your camp? I want you to reply to me on that. I would love to know your response on that. And that's the end I got to say. So have a great weekend, Andrew.
Sure thing. Thank you.
And comment. Go ahead and comment on that if you want.
Sure thing. Well, do appreciate the point in the call. You have a good one there.
All right. Take care.
And with that, I do think we'll go ahead and take that next break right now, but we'll, of course, keep talking about these and the other things and get into those call lines, see if we lost or picked up anyone on the line here right now. So We'll talk more about it and some of the more comments that have come in as well. So if you want to get on that line, particularly squeeze in before the end of the show, we're getting close enough to it, but we still got calls that we'll certainly get to. That number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
With your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz Dewicki. Animal cruelty charges have been filed after 2 malnourished dogs were found at a house in Chaparral, New Mexico. The dogs were removed from the home last week and are in the custody of Callista Animal Hospital, where vets say they are responding to treatment and doing well. The hospital also accepting donations for the animals' vet bills and treatment. 112 arrests were made during an 11-day violent crime suppression task force operation conducted by the El Paso Police Department. 12 arrests were made for weapon-involved cases and 10 weapons were seized. El Paso police say they have seen an increase in violent crime recently, but during the operation noticed it drop by about 30%. As a reminder, you can send crime tips by using the Tip 411 app located on the police department's website. All lanes of Gateway South and Gateway North at Sean Haggerty Drive are back open right now after a crash involving a semi-truck and another vehicle. It happened about 1:30 a.m. Friday morning. One person was taken to the hospital with serious injuries. The accident is still under investigation. For your KFOX 14 news update, I'm Liz Dewicki.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Lots of slowdowns on the I-10 this afternoon. I-10 eastbound in the Upper Valley from Vinton down to Red, 15-minute delays, mostly stop and go. I-10 westbound looking a little bit better from Red to past Trans Mountain, a 5-minute delay. A crash from earlier on I-10 westbound at Geronimo is off to the right. Still quite a backup. The slowdown starts at the Hunter Viscount exit up to the Patriot, 12-minute delays. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery. Temperatures are still going to be hot for the weekend, but they should come down a little. We'll see partly cloudy skies, some breezy conditions on Saturday, high around 100 degrees for your Sunday, partly cloudy, breezy, high around 99. Maybe some slight storm chances getting back in the forecast early next week. We'll see partly cloudy skies, 10% chance of a storm for your Monday, high around 97. From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Montgomery.
This report is sponsored by ComparionInsurance.com.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Never heard of us? We know. But to help it stick that our local agents are insurance experts, we're going to say local agent 3 times in the next 5 seconds. Local agent, local agent, local agent.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Trade up to a new or certified pre-owned vehicle for thousands less. Right now, our prices are the best in town.
Get huge savings on hundreds of new and certified pre-owned vehicles and more for your trade. For a limited time, everyone gets employee pricing on 2023 Jeep Gladiator trucks and super low 1.9% APR for 72 months. Take $6,000 off MSRP on 2023 Ram 1500 trucks or 2.9% APR for 72 months. Take $2,500 off MSRP on 2023 Dodge Charger and Challenger. Get $2,500 off MSRP on 2023 Chrysler 300. Worried about your credit or worried that you're upside down on your trade? Our aggressive lenders will push to approve your credit, even if your credit is less than perfect or if you owe more than your trade is worth. Get huge savings and more for your trade during the Make This the Summer Sales event at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat at I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus DTNL. 1.9% APR is $1,471 and 2.9% is $1,515 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Discover credit cards do something pretty awesome. At the end of your first year, they automatically double all the cash back you've earned. That's right, everything you earned doubled. The cash back from trips, restaurants, all doubled. Seriously, though, see terms and check it out for yourself at discover.com/match. This report is sponsored by Discover.
If you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends, for my community.
For everyone here. We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies us. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, squeezing in the calls we can in before the end of the show. So just keep that number handy, because we have had some people fall off. Like we had one dude, unfortunately, try to call us from the middle of Trans Mountain, and that just wasn't going to work out. So just make sure you got good signal and the ability to keep it going if you want to call in, because we'll be happy to take it as we do make it available. But, you just be able to get you on the line. So, again, keep that number handy, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. And I'll just say at one point, and a previous contention of Frankie's about more callers from New Mexico, that at one point, all of the lines were taken up by callers from New Mexico. I'll just say that. So Land of Enchantment alive and well, at least in this chat, and the calls there. But in any case, let's dive right back into... Oh, one comment I did want to focus on, Leonidas Bermuda asking what's up with these aliens. Can we get an alien segment kicking here? Okay, there's been a lot of stuff back and forth on... I know that the meme has been recently, yeah, government confirmed aliens exist and no one cares. I mean, there was indications of... And there's a reason that UFO was still the preferred term, of there being maybe either non-human or non-origin known points here, but some of the questions still remain on, does that truly mean extraterrestrial, or like, okay, this is going to sound bad, but let's get into the territory of crab people or mole men or anything like that. Like, I'm just saying a lot has not been confirmed. A lot of stuff that was hinted at in that hearing ends up being like, well, I'll have to confirm it further. So actual open evidence is kind of lacking outside of the still at this point largely unsubstantiated testimony. So don't go booking any honeymoon suites just yet. I'm just saying. Anywho, let's get back to those phone lines right now. 915-544-5876. We do have, and yeah, Friday definitely does go fast, but we do our best to get to as much as we can. We do have Barbara calling in from Cloudcroft at the moment here right now. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, thank you for taking my call. Frankie, now don't you dare get excited now. I mean, Cloudcroft temporarily, just so he won't have heart failure during this weekend.
Fair enough.
But what I was calling about is I wanted to discuss a letter that Escobar and the Hispanic Caucus wrote to Governor Abbott. But before I get to that, I want to respond to Eric. He says that the Republicans don't respect women. Eric, who is defending women against a trans women actions? Men want to be women. Have you heard, Eric, any Democrats out there defending a real woman? Someone that has two X chromosomes against an XY chromosome, Eric? You don't find the Democrats respecting women in any way when they don't stand up for a woman. Now, Frankie says that we that voted for Trump and we that still support Trump are stupid. Hey, Frankie, how about stupidity? We know, according to Devin Archer, President Biden was on the phone at least 20 times with Ukrainian officials. And what did he call that, Frankie? Soft abuse of power. Since when, Frankie, do we accept a president that has soft abuse of power, uses soft abuse of power with our adversaries? And it's also been discovered and disclosed that Hunter received over $20 million, or should I say the Biden family, over $20 million in like 10 or 20 different bank accounts. Now we find out, according to Comer, that President Biden, when he was vice president, was receiving emails under the name of Robert L. Peters. Are you comfortable with that, Frankie, or people who still support President Biden, are they stupid too? Remember Mitt Romney when they caught him on, what was that? Peter Delecto, he was using a pseudonym too. I mean, that wasn't ethical, but I guess it is with President Biden. And then when it comes to paying your grandchildren's education, Frankie, the Bidens received hundreds of thousands of dollars from our adversaries in Ukraine to pay for their grandchildren's education. But when President Trump paid for one of his employees' children to go to school, he gets charged. And the gentleman who received the money got charged. And he's going to prison. Now, who's stupid here, Frankie? I don't think it's just stupid. It's just closing your eyes and accepting incompetence and criminality at the White House. I don't think that President Trump, whenever he was in the White House, did this thing. He didn't take millions of dollars from our foreign adversaries. They didn't pay for his children's education. And then regarding the Georgia indictments, the state attorney herself said that taken in isolation, the charges weren't indictable. But as a whole, she thought because there were so many comments out there that they thought they could charge him on RICO and racketeering. Well, basically, and I've heard this comment from attorneys, Democrat and Republican, they're saying what is happening here is the federal government is criminalizing freedom of speech, and they're criminalizing advice that attorneys are giving their clients. So how is that justice? And this is President Biden's DOJ, and he is good with it. And then how about the Mar-a-Lago? President Trump being indicted. Have you heard a peep about President Biden? He stole, Frankie. He actually stole documents from the White House when he was vice president. And I believe he's withholding 1,180 boxes that he refuses to turn over. And has anybody thought about, a few months ago, there were comments that there was a letter sent to Burisma that looked like it had been written by someone from the State Department. Then we find out that Blinken is very close to Hunter. Then we find out that there were boxes with documents from the White House at the beach house where Hunter had access to those documents. Has anybody thought that maybe it was written by the State Department and it was in Biden's garage, that Hunter had access to it and Blinken helped him with it? I mean, there are so many things. This is a terrible thing to say, but it's true in my view. President Biden is the most dishonest person, and that's what he has taught his children. They steal, they go around our foreign adversaries, Hunter does. And I'm saying everybody that accepted the money from China, from Burisma, or any other country that gave the Bidens money, and that includes their grandchildren. They're old enough to say no. They're old enough to know right from wrong. But that didn't happen. They're accepting the money. And so I think, Frankie, you need to reassess what stupidity is and what ignorance is and what just darn right dishonesty and acceptance is, because that's what's happening to the American people. We are being divided by these charges against President Trump, which makes people like me dig my heels in further because we know what's happening. And now they just dismissed the charges of tax evasion on Hunter. Well, they said that was expected. And then they appoint David Weiss, who helped draft the sweetheart plea deal that just went down in flames. So there is nothing and no one, especially a Republican, that can get justice anywhere. They're questioning why Jack Smith used a grand jury in D.C. to charge President Trump in Florida. So the judges are waking up to this. There are so much dishonesty and trickery, and from top to bottom, the Democratic Party, there's so much stench in D.C. they can't even smell themselves anymore. But anyway, do I have a few minutes to talk about Abbott? Let's go back.
Briefly, if you can. I mean, we've covered a lot of ground here already.
All right. Escobar and the Hispanic Caucus wrote a letter to the DOJ. They want them to prosecute Governor Abbott for the Lone Star program. Well, they failed to, and I did not know this. One of my friends told me that because of Lone Star, 900 minor children were saved from possibly being trafficked, but that wasn't mentioned in there. They talk about the deaths. They are dying every day. I mean, we had 2 women in El Paso and San Andres that one was foaming at the mouth. We had a 3-year-old child in the bus. And notice in that article, I did not see where their parents' names were mentioned. And then we have an 8-year-old girl who died, and they blamed the mother said that the reason the child died is because the Customs Border Patrol ignored them or because they had a different color skin. And I'm hoping that when all the tragedy settles, she'll understand that our Border Patrol, one of them died actually saving someone who had brown skin in the Rio Grande. And they're in the front line saving these people, doing everything they can to save them. But you know what? Somebody should write a letter asking, why is it that worldwide People are being separated from their families. Men, women, and children are dying in the Darien Gap. I
Sure.
mean, we have no control over our operational control of the borders. And we spent $19 million on a soft-sided processing center in Chaparral, and now the president wants $40 billion to build housing for illegal immigrants along the border. Can you imagine what the cartel is going to do with that as far as messaging? Come one, come all, and I'm reading because I wrote this off. Come one, come all. You've now got a comfy home waiting for you at the border, fully furnished, and may include delivery of home-cooked meals. You'll have freedom to roam the streets, unlike the schools previously prepared for you that have security guards ensuring no one left and no one entered the premises unauthorized. But you can be sure the cartels are not going to mention that they have a nightly curfew. Do you really think these illegal immigrants living in housing are going to abide by a curfew? And then another question I have is, how long will they remain there? They've been interviewing some of the people in El Paso. They don't have a sponsor. They don't have the money to get to where they want to go. So how long are they going to be there? So this is just crazy. They're going to be living in Airbnbs better than our homeless in El Paso or other homeless in the United States. Why don't they also include in there, why is it that New York City is complaining about tuberculosis and polio now in their communities? They have over 50,000 illegal immigrants, the mayor says, and they are bringing in TB and polio. And they alerted that their health department alerted us a few months ago. So these are letters that aren't being done, and $40 million plus $19 million. And the death of that 8-little girl that died in her mother's arms. The HHS said that the system failed them on so many levels. And I keep saying the Biden administration does not look forward. They're always reacting. So now they've appointed a doctor to make sure that these things don't happen. Well, we've got 2 women who just died here. We've got that 3-year-old that died on the bus. What's this doctor doing? The problem starts at the border. They're not giving these children medical exams. They don't have the time to do it because they're in a hurry to get them across the border. But this is disastrous. And I said months ago that the city will never be able to prepare themselves for what's coming ahead. And they haven't been, and they won't be, and there's still thousands, hundreds of thousands waiting in Mexico all the way up to the Darien Gap who are losing their lives to come into El Paso.
I will say this, and it's specifically a couple. I mean, there have been, the last full count I saw was 70 who have specifically died in our area, just our region, when it comes to border crossings and things like that, outside of any specific category you're talking about. And at least 2 more reporting in the last couple of days being found, and bodies recovered either in the San Elizario Canal or in that near the Paisano and Schuster along the border wall. So, I mean, we're still seeing a lot of impacts to our region from this. So, I mean, it's another thing we'll keep our eye on here. But yeah, aware of that letter you're talking about from the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, entitled Letter Urging DOJ and DHS to Investigate Intentional Separation of Migrant Families at the Hands of Governor Abbott. And of course, we have also talked about what Abbott has put forth. And also, we want to say there was a news item at the top of one of the recent hours when it came to the funding that New York City is now considering. So there's a lot more that we could squeeze in any one day talking about this, but do appreciate the point in the call.
Thank you, Andrew. You have a great weekend.
No, you as well there. I think we have time for one more quick one if we can here. We do have Marie in the Northeast in line with us here. Marie, we got about a minute here.
Yes, well, I just want to take a minute.
Sure.
I want people to know that in the 1990s, there were impersonators of Trump going around, and these crooks would impersonate Trump. They would dress like Trump. The man was similar to Trump, same colored hair, similar face, and he even would go so far as to have 2 men impersonate Trump's bodyguards. And they would pick on women and try to trick women, and sometimes try to get jewelry from women, and they pretended they were Trump. He pretended he was Trump. And I am very sure in my mind that this was this impersonator who raped the woman in the dressing room of that department store. That I have no doubt of it.
Okay.
Because, for one thing, I knew the Trump family, well enough to know that they were very good with women. They did not mistreat women. And their father must have taught them so, because they were good men. They did not mistreat women. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't treat women bad, but physically, they were not rapists. Okay?
Okay.
All the Trump sons were not rapists. And I know that, and I want other people to know that.
Yeah,
And there was that impersonator, and Trump was informed one time that there was an impersonator. I don't know if he was able to do anything about it, but there was an impersonator of him. And people should keep in mind also that there was a woman who accused him of fondling her on an airplane, and Trump proved he was not on that airplane, but the media wouldn't cancel that. But he proved he was not on that airplane, and most likely it was that impersonator of Trump who was on that airplane.
Very serious charge indeed if someone else were to be having committed the crimes that were referenced in court, if not prosecuted as crimes here. But, okay, well, appreciate the point in the call and your perspective on it there, and you have a good one there.
People who are, you get a lot of calls from people who think he was guilty of that rape. No, he wasn't.
All right, well,
okay.
Do appreciate it. You have a good one there and a good weekend.
Okay, bye.
All right, with that, we're going to have to leave it there for today because we are super out of time here for this program here. I will tell you a couple of things we're working on for you next week, including some about some of the rental and housing situations here in El Paso, including on what the rights are for both tenants and landlords and what they need to keep in mind. Also, of course, coming up tomorrow on the El Paso History Radio Show, going to be talking about with the El Paso Museum of Archaeology, the groundbreaking research that's being done that could be pushing back the timelines of what we think was the human habitation of this hemisphere based on footprints being discovered and still uncovered to this day, and current research ongoing of footprints out at White Sands and in the White Sands both National Park and in the Missile Range area that may be rewriting textbooks. So we'll talk about that and have that for you tomorrow 10 to noon on News Radio 690 KTSM. But we'll have to leave it there for today. Super out of time for this show for this week, and we'll of course do it again as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. So until then, until next time, I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Again, back at it with it next week. So stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and we'll see you all in the new week. Tune in to the El Paso History Radio Show, y'all. Have a great one.